There is a moment, usually much later than people expect, when you realize something quietly unsettling. Life is continuing. The world didn't stop. The sun keeps rising. People keep laughing. Seasons change. And at some point, you are still here. For many people who've caused unintentional harm, this realization brings complicated emotions: relief, sadness, guilt, disorientation. You may find yourself wondering how you are allowed to still be alive when somebody else isn't. You may feel the strangeness of participating in ordinary life again: grocery stores, conversations, holidays, plans for the future. This video is about that strange territory. Not the immediate aftermath, not the early or latter stages of trauma, but life after. Life after the accident has been absorbed into your story, even if it's not been fully resolved. One of the hardest truths to accept is that there is no clean ending to unintentional harm. There's no moment where everything is settled, no final absolution, no return to innocence. But there is continuation, and continuation requires discernment. Life after unintentional harm is not about moving on. That phrase often feels offensive, as if it's suggesting that you forget or minimize what happened. A better phrase might be learning how to live forward. Living forward means accepting that the past cannot be undone and that the future must be lived anyway. Now, this is where humility becomes essential. Humility does not mean self-contempt. It does not mean shrinking yourself endlessly. Humility means living with an honest awareness of your capacity to harm and your capacity to care. People who've caused unintentional harm often live with a sharpened moral awareness. You may be more cautious. You may be more attentive, more attuned to risk. And this is not a flaw. It's a part of how you have been changed. But humility also means recognizing limits. You cannot control everything. You cannot guarantee outcomes. You cannot make the world perfectly safe. Trying to do so will exhaust you and distort your relationships. Life after unintentional harm involves learning how to live responsibly without becoming rigid. Another feature of this stage is grief that returns unexpectedly. You may be doing well and then something catches you off guard: a date, a sound, a place, a story in the news. And suddenly the weight returns. Now, this doesn't mean that you're regressing, because grief is not linear. Memory is not orderly. Life after harm involves learning how to let grief come and go without interpreting its return as failure. Some days will be heavier than others. That is part of carrying a story like this. Another challenge is re-entering joy. Joy may feel tentative, fragile, almost dangerous. You may worry that happiness makes you careless or disloyal. But joy, it doesn't erase grief. Joy doesn't betray the dead. Joy is not a declaration that the harm no longer matters. Joy is simply a sign that life is still present. Allowing yourself moments of joy does not dishonor loss. It honors the fact that you're still human. Life after unintentional harm often includes a quieter, deeper form of compassion. Not the kind that rushes in with answers, but the kind that listens. You may find yourself more patient with others' mistakes, more aware of hidden suffering, less interested in simple moral judgments. It's not because you're better than others. It's because you've been wounded by complexity. And complexity, remember that word? It changes people. Another aspect of life after harm is ongoing responsibility. Responsibility does not end when the legal matters conclude. It doesn't end when others keep asking questions. Responsibility becomes woven into how you and I live. It shows up in the choices that we make, in the care that we take, in the way that we acknowledge risk. But responsibility is not the same as perpetual penance. You're not required to suffer endlessly in order to be responsible. In fact, endless suffering, it often undermines responsibility by draining our capacity to engage with the world. Sustainable responsibility requires care, support, and rest. Many people struggle with how much to talk about what happened as time goes on. Do I tell new people? Do I bring it up again? Do I let it stay in the past? There's no single right answer here. Disclosure is discernment. It's not a rule. You are allowed to choose when, how, and with whom you share your story. You are allowed to protect parts of it. You are allowed to name it honestly when it feels appropriate. Life after unintentional harm also involves accepting that some people will just never understand. Some will judge, some will simplify, some will keep their distance. This can hurt deeply, but their response does not define the truth of your life. You cannot control how others interpret your story. You can only control how you live with it. One of the most important questions that you can ask, why did this happen? No, but how will I live with it? Not in a grand heroic sense, but in ordinary ways. How will I live with it? How will I show up in relationships? How will I respond to my own mistakes? How will I care for myself and for others? These questions do not require dramatic answers. They require consistency. Life after unintentional harm is often quieter than people expect. Less dramatic, more grounded, marked by small, faithful choices. And over time, something subtle begins to happen. You'll find that the event no longer occupies every waking moment. The shame loosens its grip. The story becomes integrated rather than overwhelming. This does not mean that the pain disappears. It means it takes its rightful place in a larger life. The ancient image of the hyacinth, it returns here. The flower does not replace the blood. It grows where the blood fell. Life after harm does not overwrite tragedy. It grows alongside it. And so the final words here, I don't promise resolution. I'm here to say something quieter and more durable, that you can live with this. Not easily, not without scars, but honestly, you can be a person who remembers and still participates in the world. You can carry responsibility without erasing yourself. You can live a life that holds sorrow and meaning in the same hands. So let me end with this one final invitation, to stop waiting for permission to live. You don't need permission to forget or to excuse, but permission to remain human. You didn't choose this story. You are still responsible for how you inhabit it, however. And inhabiting it with humility, care, and truth is no small thing. If you have made it this far, it means you're still here. Still willing to look honestly at what happened, still searching for a way to live forward. That matters. There's no final word. There's only continuation. And you do not have to walk all alone. So, thank you for staying. On behalf of the Hyacinth Fellowship,